Thanks for listening to the AZ12 podcast. I am your host, Mike Luke. This show is brought to you today by Little Caesars. Code 1099 bundle, classic pepperoni or cheese pizza, crazy bread or 2-liter combo. Code LCFREECC. All right. With John Brogan, I am merely Mike Luke. Hello, John Brogan. How are you doing, my friend?
Fantastic. Game was a little ugly for a while, but then they decided second half, all right, let's stop messing around and get to business.
Yes, no, exactly. So we've got a lot to get to on this show. But the first thing, though, that I want to talk about is this team absolutely wore out. This is what this team does. This team wears out. Other teams. And Arizona. And no, I'm not late. I was coming from a watch party, and so this team just wears people out, though. And I think the thing that you look at with this squad, and I think that's what's really impressive about what they do is, they didn't even play well necessarily. And, in the second half, they just basically destroyed them. And I think that was a really cool thing about that.
Well, and we've seen this a couple times now where Arizona has a slow start to the game, but their defense is so good, other teams aren't able to pull away. And then you can, like this game in the second half, you could totally feel it. You could tell there was going to come a run from Arizona's standpoint. They were starting to get out in the open court. Karchenkov had the big three early in the half, and then obviously – they started scoring points in San Diego State. That's probably I don't know if it's they just can't shoot at all or if their offense is just kind of, not a whole lot of rhythm to it, but it was an ugly, ugly offensive game from San Diego State.
It really was, but that's kind of what I think we kind of feel like what we're kind of like at this point is that, San Diego State, what they're going to do, what they're not going to be able to do. But let's just talk about up front at first. Let's just talk about Tobe Awaka. Tobe Awaka was an absolute animal, especially in that second half. That dunk that he had, he looked like Shaquille O'Neal on that one where he's just taking heads away. That was amazing.
Well, and I think, he's hard to appreciate because Koa's been really good in spurts. Burry's been awesome for 5 games straight. Bradley's been, all conference, potentially all American caliber. And so Awaka to an extent kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. But if you talk about just sheer consistency, Awaka's probably the most consistent player on the team for what he's going to do.
Right.
And he's going to rebound his tail off. He's going to be physical. And to your point, he's just beating people up in the paint and gets Arizona a bunch of extra shots. So it's hard to understate his value to the team, but he's a starter caliber player on just about every other team. We are fortunate to have him coming off the bench and dominate.
And rebounding travels. That's a great way of putting it right there. Sounds around 7. I mean, this team, again, you just look at it up and down the board. Mo Krivas only had 3 points, 13 rebounds. Tobe Awaka, 9 and 15. Koa had 5. And that's going to be something that's just going to travel. And Hal J puts it best. Plus 22. We're going to go around the conference. We're going to go around everything that's going on. But at the same stage, though, Brogan, like I said, this is a team though that this team is built for March, and that's the best way that I can put it. There's been a lot of Arizona teams that have not been built for March. And by the way, everybody that came to the watch party, Jerry Reyes, Cheryl Schmidt, all of you, very much appreciate all of you. But there's going to be a game. I'm always going to say this. There's going to be a game where Arizona is. Where they're not going to shoot well or they're going to have a hard time scoring. And in the past, those were generally games they couldn't overcome. This team is built for that, Brogan.
Well, and the Spacers are going to hate this, but, I'm getting a little tired of, and Corey Williams was talking about it tonight, they just have to shoot better. Well, why? They won by 23. Why do they have to shoot better?
Right.
Like, rebounding travels, especially when you have when you're the best rebounding team in the country with the best rebounding player in the country. But you know what also travels? Defense travels. Okay. And so in the past, when you look at the loss to Princeton, the loss to Buffalo, the loss to Houston in the tournament, Arizona played below average to bad games and couldn't do anything about it. This team now can all of a sudden beat you 60-40, or they can beat you 100-80. Right. And so if they're going to come out and not be able to hit a bunch of threes, great. Guess what? We're going to hold you to 45 points, 28% shooting from the field, and we're going to beat you by 20 anyway. So I think with this team, under Tommy for sure, and most of the Miller teams, this is the first team where I feel like they're going to walk to the Sweet 16.
Right.
Doesn't matter who they play. And then things start to get a little more real once you get to Sweet 16, Elite Eight time, obviously. But those first two games of the tournament are going to be very low stress games for Arizona, which you haven't been able to stay in a while. So.
Yeah, and because again, how many times would you go? Oh, Bridgetech Communications, holy moly, my guy Tony, number 2 ranked defense in the country now, according to Ken Palm. Do we agree Awaka is playing into the MNBA next year? You know, I'd like to say it. I just don't see the offense though, and I'd love because with his tenacious as he is, with everything that he does, I just don't know at what position he plays at. From the fact that he doesn't really shoot, he can't. If he could stretch the court a little bit, I could see a path there. I just don't see this because this isn't like back in like the 90s. And again, I could be wrong, but it's not back in the 90s where you would have like Antonio and Dale Davis and, guys like that are just kind of junkyard dogs. I don't see it, but I'd love to be wrong. What say you, Brogan?
Well, and Fran kind of made this point on the show. Every team has a Steven Adams, a Valanciunas, like a Nurkic, a big, slow, big plotting center that you can throw the ball to in the paint and they could play. Awaka's like 6'6".
Right.
And you don't have that guy in the NBA anymore. So if you're not 7 foot, 250 pounds, you can be a little clunky. If you're 6'6" and you can't shoot, then I don't know what you do. He's not Draymond Green. He can't pass. He can't defend. He can't handle the ball, all those things. So, he's going to make a lot of money playing somewhere.
Yeah.
He's probably not in the NBA.
There's a phrase that I always love using that I'd love to have his future, and that's the best way.
Right.
That's the best way that I can put this. Now we're gonna go around. We're gonna go around a lot. Oh, is there Shelby? Hello, 199 Super Snap. Well, birthday is tomorrow, but thank you very much, though. Happy birthday, Mike. Easy.
Hey, that's an interesting point. Maybe Awaka becomes an NFL tight end.
I don't know. Ben White bailed on us again, but I wanted to ask him about that tight end. That tight end. Scouting that tight end comparison. What I've also found out too about this team. This is going, and again, I expect them to lose a game or two. I'm not going to sit here and say they won't. But man, it's going to take a really good effort from a team to beat Arizona, because even when Arizona doesn't have its A game, this is still something where you're like, wow, man. I mean, this San Diego State game and I don't know why it was, because it's not one of the better teams they'll play all year. But what they just did in the second half, where they just beat the crap out of a team like that, and San Diego State didn't have any answers. If that game had gone on 10 more minutes, they would have lost by 45 points, Brogan.
Yeah, in the first half, San Diego State did a really good job of pressure on Arizona. They picked up full court. They sped Arizona up a little bit. The guards were playing, 8, 10, 12 feet behind the three-point line, initiating offense. And so they took Arizona totally out of their rhythm on offense. And then the shots that Arizona got were open threes. They didn't make any of them. Right. And so you saw Arizona kind of come out in the second half. They made a few minor adjustments where they changed their offensive rhythm up a little bit and they got better shots. But it was also just a matter of Arizona. You could tell, like, eventually they were going to make shots. They were getting significantly better looks than San Diego State was. Then when you factor in the rebounding thing. But yeah, once the second half started, you could just tell that San Diego State got nothing accomplished at halftime. They didn't pick up any rhythm. Arizona adjusted to the pressure, and then all of a sudden you're up 25 points.
Yeah, and so, all right, now we got a couple more super snaps. Huntington, Arizona, enjoy the process. Happy holidays to you guys. This game felt like a 2013-2014 Miller team defensively. Good to see the experience, that kind of game. Very much appreciate that. All right, what else? What other super snaps? OC Bodybuilders, my guy. Merry Christmas and happy holidays, AZ12 podcast fan. Happy early birthday. I very much appreciate that, OC Bodybuilders. It did have a little bit of a feel to a Miller type thing, or where it's just like, we're going to be more physical than you. We're going to be able to bring 2 or 3 guys off the bench. The thing about it, though, with this team, though, is I don't, with Miller's teams, as good as they were, there were times when I'm like, man, we're just going to struggle to score. I don't really have that concern. And I heard Corey saying that, and I know that some of the spacers are saying that, but I'm kind of with you at this point. Man, we're just when you're beating the snot out of teams or you're beating everybody, again, sure, you'd like to be able to make 10 out of 15 threes or whatever, but isn't this a solution in search of a problem?
If this Arizona team, yes, 100%. If this Arizona team was going to make 8 to 10 threes a game and shoot 40%, then they're the UConn of a couple years ago where they're just going to steamroll everybody in the country, and there's not going to be a team that can play close to them.
Right.
But what we've kind of seen with Arizona is if you don't have pros, you can't beat Arizona.
Yeah.
You can have good college players like San Diego State and like Auburn and like Florida. But if you don't have pros, so the at BYU game is going to be the first game where they've got NBA dudes, It's
Right.
going to be a true road game with 28,000 screaming fans.
Right.
It's going to be sold out and crazy. That'll be the first game where BYU is going to have the best player on the floor, and that's when things will start to get interesting. But until then, if you don't have pros, they're just going to stomp you out at some point.
Well, and that's kind of why I look at it. You look at the teams that played Arizona really, really tough this season, and there are teams again that that had UConn's an example. I know they were missing a guy or two, but UConn's got good players. They got guys that are going to play in the NBA. They've got, but like you said, if you don't have talent, if you don't have next level type guys, you're in a world of hurt against this team. And I think the Big 12 is going to be absolutely I think the Big 12 is going to be incredibly fascinating to watch. Let's get a couple reads in here and then let's get back let's get back to it. Welcome to the Rock. Yes, yes, yes. Green Valley Decorative Rock. Welcome to the Rock. We were talking about this at the watch party today, baby. 2 convenient locations, Tucson plus Green Valley. Now, there's a lot of people out there that think that Green Valley is, or that it's only in Green Valley. They are idiots. It is in Tucson as well. Again, east of Benson, Sierra Vista, west of Marana, south to Nogales, north to Oracle. Check it out. Green Valley Decorative Rock. Welcome to the Rock.
You know who's not on this ad? Bisbee or Thatcher.
Well, we got to talk about that for a second. I mean, come on here. I mean, Bisbee or Thatcher, especially especially Titletown, USA, that is Thatcher. How did this happen?
They're not Benson, clearly.
Yeah, I think that's what it really comes down to. Okay, yes, I think that's what it comes down to. And Jesse Bridges puts it the best, as he always does. He just can't stop thinking about Green Valley Decorative Rock. I think that's a great way of putting it. Thank you, my friend. All right, Jesse's Tattoo Shop, baby. All right, now at Jesse's Tattoo Shop, they got all kinds of tattoos there. They do fine line. They do basically any kind of color you want. And you walk in there, and it's going to be a fun environment. Not only is it going to be a fun environment, you're going to get it done right, and it is going to be affordable. That is the best part about it. Jesse's Tattoo Shop, golf links in Pantano, sober shop. Wear a tattoo that speaks to your what you want, and you could go in there and you can get, like I said, you can get a flash sale where you can get a $40 tattoo, something nice. Jesse's Tattoos and Tattoo Supplies, top 3 business rating, Google reviews, July 2025. They do great work. Check it out. Okay, now. All right, Copal, we were just there. Watch parties, baby. The watch party at Copal was a lot of fun. Very much appreciate everybody that showed up. All right, book your next large party or corporate event with Copal. Large party packages available. They do a lot of different stuff. Go in there and ask for the Mike Luke special, the free elote rib with any pizza purchase, with any entree purchase. Check it out. Mexican food delivered at nationwide at mymexicanmenu.com. Okay, now. All right, so let's get back to this a little bit. Then we're going to get to the Big 12. Arizona, basically, I don't see Arizona losing for a while, Broken. No. And I think you saw in this game, too, Arizona, even when they don't play well, it's going to take a special team to beat them. I would be stunned if they lose before probably that next real one they're going to have is that BYU game.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the 26th of January, so
right.
Still a month away. In conference, they've got Utah, I think ASU, Kansas State, TCU, something like that coming up over the next couple games. None of those teams are going to beat Arizona. It doesn't matter if it's home or road. This team's different in the same kind of regard where when teams go on a little run, take a lead, you're just like, okay, that's cute. Like, just give us 3 or 4 minutes.
Right.
Bradley makes a play, ADO hits a 3, whatever the case may be. But it's an interesting thing because – and I can't remember who put this out there. I think it might have been, I can't remember what it was. Somebody on Twitter. Anyways, Arizona's strength is they just don't have any weaknesses.
Right.
They can beat you in like 6 different ways. They've already shown they can make threes against Alabama. They've already shown that they can hold you to 45 points tonight. They've already shown that 2 guys can out-rebound your whole team. And so they just don't have any weaknesses. So when you're built like that, what's it going to take to lose in the tournament? A bunch of foul trouble, no threes made, and I don't know what else they're not going to be able to do because they're going to play defense, they're going to rebound, they're going to make 2s and make free throws. So it's it's an awesome place to be for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and there's things we can like TLN says. Their free throw shooting can definitely be better at times. I mean, I would agree with that. But that's like I said, I look at it this way, and I kind of look at some of the teams. And again, I'm not saying this is Arizona because this isn't Arizona, but you look at some of the teams that have cruised to like titles or have won titles. You look at like UConn, then those back-to-back years or whatever, especially that second year. They didn't really have any weakness because they could score. They were big. They passed well. They could do a variety of different things that in Arizona, I think, is kind of the same way. But what I think is also I think what's also very interesting about Arizona, though, is if you want to play slow down with them, okay, cool. Arizona is going to be just fine. Yeah, the inbounding isn't great. I will I'll definitely give you that. But if Arizona's going to be, if you want to play slow, fine. Arizona's going to just beat you up. If you want to play fast, and you saw that against Alabama, that was the one where it really showed me. All right, Alabama wanted to get right up and down the court. Arizona's like, okay, you want to play that way as well? Guess what? We're going to get right up and down the court as well, and we're going to outscore you in the process doing it. I don't know that there's really a style that you can play that is going to, that is really kind of play into Arizona's hands, Brogan.
No, you're going to have to be somebody like Michigan who can match Arizona's size. You've got, again, an NBA first-round lottery pick in Lindenberg. You've got a bunch of guards. You can make threes. So it's going to take somebody who's as well-rounded as Arizona is. And the only team out there that's really that is Michigan, maybe UConn at full strength. I don't think Duke's big enough. I don't think BYU's big enough. I don't think Houston's deep enough to consistently beat Arizona. Sure, you might get Arizona at home if you're Houston once. Neutral court in the tournament, I think Arizona's beaten Houston 7-8 times out of 10. Same with BYU, just because they're not big enough. And so UConn is pretty good sized, and Michigan obviously is big, but you're going to have to be really good on defense. You're going to have to shoot it. You're going to have to be big. You're going to have to rebound. Like, you're going to have to do everything against Arizona, because if you don't, they'll expose you.
See, that's where – so when we talked about it before, I believe that right now, and especially after this game, I believe that the three best teams in the country, which what I don't care how you want to put it. It's not really the which of Miller's teams could beat this team. I don't think any of Miller's teams would beat this team, but if you wanted to go, the 13-14 team would have the best chance. But I think this team's just more well-rounded. Again, and those teams were great. That's certainly not a slight, but I don't think they're on this level. The thing with this team, though, that team would basically wear you down. This team demoralizes you. I mean, you look at it, think about it from if you're San Diego State, you had you have this game where you're like, okay, we're going into the half, we're down one, they're not playing well. They kind of look out of sync, and then you look up at the 10-minute mark and you're down 15 points. I mean, that's just kind of what they do to you. But the more I watch, and I've actually watched a lot of college basketball this year, I believe there's three teams above everybody else. I really do. I believe that right now it's Arizona, Michigan, and UConn. I don't care where you want to put them. Those are the three teams to me right now, Brogan. And they're the three teams that I think match up best with anybody from a height, from a skill, from a coaching perspective. It's those three teams to me, and then there's other teams. But what say you?
Yeah, same. There's other teams out there, like Houston, BYU, Purdue, maybe Michigan State on the right day, Duke. There's other teams out there that can beat you, but if you're going to play 10 games, Arizona's winning 8, 9, 7, or what out of 10. Michigan and UConn are the two unique ones because, again, they've got NBA players, they've got really good coaches, they're big,
they're well-rounded.
So, they don't really have a ton of weaknesses like Arizona. No, not Iowa State. They're in the same boat Houston's in, where they don't have enough depth for Arizona. Agreed. And they don't have enough good size for Arizona.
Agreed, and that's where I'm at. And Iowa State, as good as they are, and they're definitely better than I thought, I still think they're getting a little bit overrated because of that game against Purdue. Now, you could say, it is what it is. I get it, but I put them in that second. I put them in that second category. And again, we're going to get to the Big 12 here in just a second. But so. Yeah, like I said, and then so let's look around college basketball then a little bit. But I will say this: you look at Duke. Some of Duke's flaws were exposed today against Texas Tech. Duke is good; they're very good. But man, they are incredibly reliant on one player in a way that Arizona just isn't. Arizona's got a bunch of different guys that can beat you. I mean, Duke, you've got to have Boozer's got to play well. Boozer's got to play well. And that was a Texas Tech team that basically has two players on their team that they lost to today, Brogan.
Yeah, and where Duke got exposed today is it was Boozer and nobody else.
Right.
In the past, you had Isaiah Evans, step up in games. You've had Caleb Foster. You've had Dame Sarr. You've had, the other Boozer, the lesser Boozer.
Right.
But they're so dependent on one guy that if you happen to make a few shots and then get late in the game, it's easy to take one guy out. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what Tech did was they slowed Boozer down in the last 4 minutes of the game, got a lead, and then, lucky Anderson gets fouled at the end of the game, makes free throws, they win. But again, Duke has enough top end talent because they got 4 or 5 NBA players on their roster.
Right.
But Boozer's awesome, but he's not the guy at the end of the game where it's like the last 4 minutes go take over against good teams and he can deliver consistently.
You know what would also worry me as well is that, and I know that they had no answer for Christian Anderson in that game. I mean, literally none. And like that last play of the game where you knew he was going to drive and get fouled, those are always the ones that kind of worry me a little bit. If I know exactly what's happening, if I know what the offense is going to do and I still can't stop it, that always worries me. So Duke is in that second tier. You look around now. Let's look around the Big 12 a little bit here. Houston, that was a nice win today that they got against Arkansas. Arkansas kind of plays into what Houston wants to do, though, because they're just kind of schizophrenic. They're all up and down the court. But Arizona's going to have chances for Arizona's going to – hold on a second. Why does this guy keep saying this? I'm glad Adiola is still on the team. He saves us. So up to Mike, he would have let him transfer, be the 10th man. Look, dude, I'm literally like the biggest ADO fan in the world, bro. When everybody last year was crapping on him, I was his biggest fan.
I'm not sure EM 7777 knows who Shear is, but he's mistaken you for Shear.
You're
on this
definitely one. Because even Murph has said, dude, you really stuck up for him last year. So you bring this up about once every 3 weeks, and you're wrong. So okay, but I'll say this though. You look around the Big 12. Arizona's going to have some opportunities. Arizona's going to have some opportunities to be able to beat some more good teams. But the more I look at it, man, the more I think that Arizona is clearly the best team in the Big 12. And that's saying something because this is a loaded conference.
Yeah, and if you look at Houston's game today, they were 11 for 25 from 3.
They're probably not repeating that.
No, and they scored 94 points. And so if they're going to make 10-plus threes with as hard as they play and as good as Sampson is as a defensive coach, they're going to be an awesome team. I just don't think they can consistently make threes like that. They also played 6 guys more than 10 minutes. So if you don't have depth and you're Houston and you're playing a team like Arizona or Michigan where they're just going to beat you up front and Tugler's prone to foul trouble, like that's going to be a tough game for them if they don't have enough depth to keep up.
All right, Meisner, the great Meisner puts it very well. He says Houston looked dominant at times, but they aren't nearly as consistent and they were. Yeah, that to me is kind of what it is. I got to give Brogan a lot of credit because he's like, I think they've taken a little bit of a step. The thing with Houston though last year is in every single game you knew exactly what they were going to do. You knew the talent. I don't think they have as much talent as they had. And again, I don't want to minimize them. They're a top 10 team. They're really, really good. But it feels like the last couple years, they were clearly one of the 3 best teams in the country, and you knew exactly how they were going to play and what they were going to do. I just think that Arizona's got a better better margin for error is probably the best way I can put it.
When you look at Houston last year, they had Cryer and they had Roberts, where whenever they needed a bucket, it was those two most of the time. Occasionally it was Uzan and some ISO stuff, but it was Cryer running off screens, and it was Roberts' offensive rebounds around the block. You then turn around and replace those 2 guys with Flemings and Cenac, freshmen, and Flemings has been awesome, but it's hard to replace that in big games with freshmen because, as good as Cenac is, he's, 10 points a game, 6 rebounds. He's not the same impact as Juwan Roberts yet.
Right.
And so Houston's good. They got a lot of good talent. They're going to be a top 10 team all year, but they were ranked 1 or 2 pretty much at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And I don't see that.
Yeah, sure. And Anthony Humbert says this Arizona team, I think, has the biggest margin for error I can remember in a long time. I think that's a great way. Of putting it. All right, I want to talk about Yvonne here for a second because Mo Adkins, I think, makes a very good point. But let's get a couple more reads in here. All right, now the Tucson Family Food Project, direct aid plus life skills development, cooking, nutrition. Currently 255 meal kits per week. 2026 goal 1,000 meal kits per week. Donations made with AZ12 comment will be matched cumulative up to $10,000. The Tucson Family Food Project, check it out. Cheryl is great. I think the best thing about Cheryl is, like I said, she's going to match this, and check it out. It is a great cause. We very, very much appreciate Cheryl. Very much appreciate Cheryl.
Before you joined, the rumor going around was that was your daughter. Just
yeah,
saying.
it's not my daughter. Yeah, not my daughter. Yeah, yeah, all these people. Yeah, back off. And all right, now, guys. Yes, there's teams that can beat Arizona. I'm just saying that there's clearly 3 teams that are above everybody else.
Kansas ain't one of the teams that can beat us, though.
Yeah, Kansas. They don't even have, their best player doesn't play. You know what's funny about Kansas? I don't take Kansas seriously anymore until I know what's going on with Peterson.
Right,
I just don't.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
we'll get to that in a second. All right, now Brogan, your front pipe. Talk to me.
It's working great so far, so good.
Have you tried it out during this holiday season?
Sure.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. Yeah, the front pipes, because front pipes don't take holidays off. Yeah, sewer line coating, point repairs, water heaters, drain cleaning, sewer inspections, gas, water, sewer repairs, 24/7 service. 10% off when you mention the AZ12 podcast. Call 520-603-3817 to schedule service today. Danny Foster is the man. We very much appreciate Danny Foster. All right. 88 Crime. Now, if you see somebody going around and they're stealing front pipes, or they're stealing copper or catalytic converters, or they're lying about somebody, about a sister that they say they have that maybe they don't, comments. Call 88 Crime, man. Don't call it on Land, though. Land's too good of a guy. Can you imagine calling 88 Crime on Land Allen? Like the nicest guy in the world.
If you find out who stole San Diego State's offense, call 88 Crime.
Call 88 Crime. They'll take care of you. Yeah, it's anonymous. Pima County Attorney's Office, 88crime.org. And Tyler Warden, we'll get to that in a second, but Tyler Warden was legendary today. That was amazing. Drinking out of your shoe again. These kids. The kids. All right, what else we got? Okay. What else? Cody. Okay, well, I guess we're back. All right, now let's look around the Big 12 a little bit more. Here's where I'm at with some of these other teams. Kansas. I would take Kansas very seriously because we talked about this a little bit on the postgame show last time, because I like the players surrounding Peterson. They're better than I thought. Council's really good. Badinga's good. White's good. The guy that shoots threes is good. But I don't take any team seriously where I don't know if their best player is going to play and if his dad's going to be pulling him out of the lineup. The fact that he's only played in 40% of the games this year, and when we had Fran Fraschilla on and he was essentially rolling his eyes at the hamstring that he's dealing with, I don't take
cramping. He called
cramping or whatever it is. I don't take Kansas seriously at this point. I just don't.
Yeah, you can't because Peterson's going to be a top 3 or 4 pick in the draft, assuming he doesn't go full Ace Bailey and tank his stock a little more.
Right.
But when you have somebody that's that talented not playing, and Kansas was already kind of one of those fringe top 10-ish teams when he was on the roster,
right.
You take him off the roster, 20 points a game,
yeah.
Hard to replace. I know they had some good reps in the tournament. They won a couple games. You can't sustain that without Peterson, though.
Yeah, I just don't see that under any circumstance. So, but I look at it though, and let me ask you this. You and I were talking about this on the phone. I don't believe that the Big 12 can get 2 number 1 seeds. I think that's going to be very, very difficult. Depending now, maybe Houston or Houston or Iowa State but I think that's going to be very difficult. But I will say this: when I look around the conference, I think that they're going to get a 1 seed, and I think they can get multiple. I think they can get multiple 2 seeds, and maybe you get a 3rd seed in there as well. I do think that you've got. What do you got? 4 of the top 10 teams in the country.
Yeah, but the problem with the tournament is Duke's going to roll through the ACC,
right?
And that's going to lock up a 1 seed. UConn's going to roll through their conference, lock up a 1 seed.
Michigan and Arizona.
By and large, Michigan's rolling through, and so I don't think it's a guarantee Arizona's a 1 seed. I think if one of these teams wins the Big 12 and Arizona finishes second in the Big 12, I think then there's a debate to be had. If Arizona wins the Big 12, they're the easiest 1 seed in the tournament.
All right, let me ask you about that then. It's an interesting point. What about with Arizona then, without a conference schedule where you're basically going to have all these wins, and let's say that you go, let's say in the Big 12, because what are there, 18 games now? Or 18? Yeah. If Arizona goes 14-4 in the Big 12, I can't see there's any way that they don't get a 1 seed.
Yeah, I would agree. But I also don't think I think if they go 14-4, they're winning the Big 12.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think
You
that's
know what I
fair.
mean? But if they go 12-6
Yeah,
and Houston goes 14-4 and beats Arizona,
yeah. Then it's a
I could see Houston getting a 1 seed, or there's a conversation for sure. So
right.
um
Where Arizona's really, and Michael McDermott puts it very well. No program has a better non-conference resume this year. That stuff's going to carry because even though Alabama looked like a bunch of, they looked totally against Arizona. I didn't even know what they were doing half the time. That's still going to be a 3 or 4 seed at the very worst. Florida, I know people want to throw. Florida's still a top 20 team. They're going to be somewhere between a 4 and a 5 seed. UCLA, I don't really know about, but UConn is going to probably be a 1 seed. Arizona's just got a lot of really, really good wins at this point.
yeah. And I don't think they planned on being undefeated at this point. Obviously, you want to win every game, but I think if you would ask Tommy, he would assume they would have had 1 or 2 losses, and he probably have been happy with that because you learn from these games and you kind of figure out what type of team you are. And so now they can go into the Big 12 conference with I think Ken Palm has them as an underdog in 2 of their remaining games.
Right.
And that's at BYU, at Houston. And
All right.
so, it's going to be hard for them. They're definitely not losing 7 games, but I think it's 3 or 4 losses in the Big 12 max because Iowa State, if they go on the road, I'd have to look at the schedule, but at Iowa State's tough. At Kansas is always tough. Peterson his hamstring might be healed by then.
He might.
Texas Tech, BYU, Houston. The Big 12 is so tough. It's going to be hard to not lose 3 or 4 games in conference.
All right. Now I am going to challenge somebody in here. Where was it? I think it was Too Busy Winning said that Arizona is, he sees at least 7 losses for Arizona. I have a very difficult time seeing 7 losses for Arizona at this stage in the game because you're not going to lose a game until probably January. And you look at it, Arizona's basically got a cakewalk those first 8 or 9 games in Big 12 play.
By the way, Arizona moved up to number 2 overall in KenPom, and they are no longer predicted to lose any games the rest of the season.
Yeah. All right. Well, there goes. I just don't see 7 losses to me. I think that's crazy. No
7
offense.
losses just tells us that you don't watch the games. That's all.
Yeah. It's nothing personal. There's a lot of people like that. But I'd be stunned by that. With Ken Palm, I'm glad Ken Palm's coming around now that Arizona's good. That's nice. Okay, 6. I still think 6 is crazy as well. So yeah, you're headed in the right direction, but it's not. It's still not.
In order for Arizona to lose 6 or 7 games, you're going to have to lose to teams like TCU and Kansas State and West Virginia and Oklahoma. So you're going to have to lose 2 or 3 games to those teams.
Right.
Not happening.
Now let's talk a little bit about Ivan Karchenkov. Every single game, it just feels like he makes a couple threes where you're like, okay, he gets a couple steals, he finishes in transition. You know what's weird about him too? He's a really good finisher around the basket, whether it's in transition. A lot of times with guys like that, I kind of wonder, do you have to get creative? Do you have to be able to, this or that? And again, I don't want to sit here and, make him out like he's Larry Bird. But, man, he's everything that we could have hoped for and a lot more, Brogan. He's been perfect for what this team needed.
Well, and usually you see guys coming out of high school that struggle to finish at the rim early. Maybe they figure it out later. But him kind of playing professionally before coming to Arizona, you can tell that he's not necessarily intimidated by size and physicality and things of that nature. He's strong.
Right.
He's 6'7", which helps. But he's also got a little bit of the Euro in his game where he can sidestep, he can slow down, he can finish with both hands. And so similar to, not the same player by any means, but it's similar to what we used to talk about with ADO. He's creative around the rim to be able to finish.
Right.
And Karchenkov has a little bit of that in terms of he can put the ball to the side, he can shoulder you, he can slow down and throw your timing off, he can elevate, he's big. But him in general, he's the best perimeter defender on the team. Maybe it's him and Bradley. Bradley, if you're guarding ones, but if it's 2, 3, 4,
he's your best traditional perimeter defender. Yes.
Yeah.
And wasn't little Guillermo. That was Too Busy Winning that said that. Papa Shot. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so with him, when you talk about somebody who can get you some offensive rebounds, who can make a timely 3, who can lock up the other team's best perimeter player, Like he does so many of the little things, but then when you mix that in with all the little things that Awaka does,
Right.
like the team has like the two best role players in the conference potentially,
Right.
which is crazy then to go with all of the starters. So
Yeah. And I think that's a good play. Great Jesse Figueroa. But Yvonne's just kind of got no fear. You see a lot of freshmen that come in the moment, and you say, I don't want to, there's been times this year, and Burries has been awesome, so I'm not putting him down. But there's been times where it looked like Burries or Aristote, it's like, all right, this is a really big moment for them. They're freshmen. It happens. I think what's interesting about Yvonne is I haven't seen a moment this year where it's like, oh, he's a freshman. He looks a little bit overwhelmed. I just haven't seen that. Maybe there's been, but I just haven't seen it.
Well, he doesn't take bad shots, plays
Right.
within himself, understands his value is defense and rebounding and all those other things, but he gets out and runs the break and does all the little things, but he doesn't force anything.
Right.
If you look at this team, the only player who moderately forces anything is Koa.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that's part of the game plan. It's like,
Yeah.
look, if you got the ball ISO'd at the elbow,
Take it.
Tommy's telling him every time, go do whatever it is you want to go do.
Yeah.
And so the team themselves, I think, have bought into exactly how Lloyd wants to play, which is we move the ball a ton, we share the ball a ton, everybody gets to play, and everybody's going to be able to shoot and kind of be their best.
Right.
But with Yvonne, he fits perfectly because, again, coming from Europe, they move the ball a lot, things of that nature, but he just lets the game come to him, and he's in the right spots making the right plays 95% of the time at this point.
And I think the best way you can put it is, and somebody in the chat, Hal J said this, and I think this is what you were saying as well, Brogan. He's a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just looks like a professional basketball player. This is the guy, whether he plays in the NBA or whether he plays overseas, he is going to be playing basketball for a very long time at a professional level. Now, let me ask you this. Okay, now let's get back. Let me get all the super snaps in here. I think I missed a couple here. I apologize. Let's see here. Little Guillermo, $9.99. Back the A, Girthquake, Waka Waka, baby. Very much appreciate Guillermo. Hunting Arizona, enjoy the process. Over under four losses in conference play. That is a good number that I would put it at.
Mm-hmm.
Over or under, because again, you've got to remember that. And Cody, can you pull up their schedule? Or maybe Brogan, you can. Can you pull up the Big 12 schedule? Because for the last 9 games of the season, it's a gauntlet. Before then, there's a lot of foreplay, but it's basically a gauntlet then at that point where, it's, I think you got like Houston twice or something. You got Iowa State. You got a lot of.
They've got at Utah, K-State at home, at TCU, ASU at home, at UCF, at home against Cincinnati, at home against West Virginia.
They're only at the worst. They're losing one of those games just by overlooking at most.
But like at TCU, at Central Florida, they're not losing those games.
Right.
So they're not going to lose a home game. They're not losing at Utah.
Right.
So, but then once you get to BYU, okay, you got at ASU, Oklahoma State, but then you go. Cody's got it on the screen. You see it there. You've got Kansas, Texas Tech, BYU, Houston, Baylor, Kansas, Iowa State, all in a row.
Yeah. So you're going to drop.
There's not a tougher stretch of basketball, no matter who you are. Conference. That's the toughest stretch in the country.
Man, that's crazy. So you've got So you got Kansas, Texas Tech, BYU, Houston, Baylor, Kansas, and Iowa State. You're going to drop a couple of those ones, but you know what? I don't.
The only upside to that is they get the last 2, Iowa State, Kansas at home. They get BYU at home, and they get Tech at home. They go at Kansas, at Houston, at Baylor. So they got 4 of the 7 at home. You'll take your chances with that.
If you like Ken Palm, the way Ken Palm does his stuff, he predicts them to drop 3 games in conference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That'd have been where I was at. Under 4, 3 feels right. Given how the non-conferences went, I think it would be irresponsible to say they're going to lose 5 games, and definitely crazy to say 6 or 7. But
yeah, for sure.
Anyways.
But anything in the 3 or 4 realm, I'm totally cool with. If you're 15-3 or 14-4 with that, I'll totally take that. I got no.
Get you a 1 seed as well. If you go 14-4, better.
For sure. Yeah, I got no issues with that. Where are you at with Dwayne Aristote at this point, Brogan?
I think every single game now, he's making some play where you're like, okay, he's a contributor on this team. I think what stood out to me the most in this game was his defense.
Right.
Because I've been mocking the fact that the coaching staff called him a 2.
Yes.
But on defense tonight, he looked like a 2 chasing guys around on the perimeter. And so, he hit the 3 early in the second half that obviously was helping ignite the run right after ADO's 3. But his defense on the perimeter gives them another guy who's 6'7", 6'8", athletic, long, physical, 225, 230, whatever he is. And so in the past, when Arizona had to sub, it's like, okay, we've got good bench players, but it was ADO who couldn't defend, but he could score.
Right.
You get people like that off the bench. Now it's like you just bring in physicality and athleticism and defense off the bench like crazy, and Arizona can hit threes. So, with him, I think he's going to have a really, really good year next year. But even this year, he played 18, 20 minutes tonight in a game that was relatively close for about 28 minutes.
You know what I like about him?
Great.
You know what I like about him, and I think you're going to see this as he continues to go forth. There were times, and again, I'm a big ADO guy, no matter what EMM or whatever his name is keeps trying to say. But I'm going to say this: there were times last year where you just looked and you're like, "Oh, this is not an ADO game." I think of Houston, last year, and this is a different ADO, and we got to give him credit for that. I mean, this is he's better. But I look at it last year, and I'm like, man, you got to get him out of there. This ain't his game. He's just overmatched. When I look at Aristode, I see a guy that, yes, he's still got some stuff that he's got to work on, but I don't see him ever in any game being physically overwhelmed by anything. Now, again, there might be some games where he just doesn't play well, but I don't ever see a game where I'm like, all right, man, he's just not ready for this. And I think that's what's kind of exciting about him.
Yeah, well, and he had, a year off because of the foot injury or whatever. And so I think you're starting to see him get a lot more comfortable in just with the speed and the physicality and all that of the game. But yeah, it's if Karchenkov, knock on wood, had to miss a game or two for some crazy reason, and Aristode had to start at the 3 and play 25, 30 minutes a game,
right,
we would lose a little bit, but he would be more than good enough for this team to continue to beat good teams. Because, again, he's another one. Plays hard on D, he had 4 offensive rebounds tonight, made an open 3. Like, he does all the things that win basketball games without having to force any issues.
And you know what I like about him, too, is that you can tell as he's getting more comfortable, he's active. He's got a good energy to him. Yeah. And I think early on in the season, and we've seen guys before that even if they're good, they have weird energy or they kind of have weird vibes to them. You and I were bigger KJ fans than Sheer, but there were certain games where KJ just had weird energy where it was like, I don't know, this might not be your game. When I look at Aristode, and quite frankly, when I look at anybody on this team, everybody's got solid energy. There's nobody that's ever out there moping or pouting, or there's nobody and even like when Burries was really struggling early on in the season, that was just because he was struggling and he was new. There was nothing that you looked at, you're like, okay, man, this guy's head's not in the game, or he's just trying to get his. And that's where the vibes are just very good right now. And I think, Sounds Around Us 7 puts it really well. The vibes are high. I think that's a really good way of putting it.
Well, and I think what's been great about this team is they've won in so many different ways with so many different players having impacts, from ADO scoring 20, making big shots in big games, to Koa having 30 against Florida, to Bradley making clutch shots, to Krivas and Awaka dominating. Like, I think it's easier to buy in to this year's team if you're on the team when everybody's had a big game so far of the rotation.
Right.
Last year, it was a whole bunch of Caleb Love in big games, win or die, and things like that. I think it was a little tougher. Again, I don't think they had bad energy last year, but I think this year it's easy for them to be like, look, we all play a lot, we all contribute, we all score, we all do all these things together. And so it's easier for them to buy into this team concept.
And I think let's compare a little bit of that, because I think that's an interesting point. I want to talk about Oregon and Duke from last year, because I think it's an interesting point. Let's get a couple reads in here, though. All right, now first Baggins. Now, I was hanging out with Dennis Walsh and his lovely lady, and we were talking about the Dennis Walsh special at Baggins. But again, use code AZ12 for 15% off. All food made in-house daily. Every sandwich comes with a chocolate chip cookie. 12 Arizona locations. Join our VIP text club. Text Baggins to 877-797-0444. And let's see here. For specials and deals like a BOGO Fridays. Free delivery with code FREE RIDE. Check it out. Baggins Gourmet Sandwiches. Yummy, yummy in my tummy. All right, Lan. You're in here, Lan. Lan, the freaking man with the master plan. I found it very, very interesting. Very interesting that Lan would not confirm nor deny when he was confronted in person about the identity of this woman in this picture. And
here's what I think happened. it was cool that it was his wife until it wasn't cool anymore. So then he had to start denying it.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to deny.
Well, I'm going to say it, Brogan, under any circumstances, is Jessica ever going to be okay with you denying that she's your wife?
If she becomes too famous, maybe.
She's on an Eris Dental read, then maybe. All right, yeah, fair enough. But on a serious note, Thatcher's finest, land the man with the master plan. 1997, the championship package. Boom, check it out. Dental implants at affordable rates. Daily urgent care, Monday through Friday. Only offers necessary treatments. So this woman right here, supposedly her name is Rebecca. So Rebecca right here is only getting necessary treatment. So they're not going to like put her under, and she's going to come up, and she's going to have like one of those like Botox things done to her or something. There's going to be none of that because again, they only offer necessary treatment, and it's done at affordable rates. Now, Dennis Walsh has been saying Land telling the truth is at plus 350, which means that he does not believe Land the man with the master plan. I'm kind of coming around to Brogan's point of view on this one as well, though.
Yeah, it's down from plus 1,000 though. So
yeah, it was at plus 1,000.
Shifting.
Yeah, I was going to say this line, man, the call she lines are really coming up on this one, man. So, check it out, though. Owned by Arizona local alumni, Land the freaking man with the master plan, and landed a very nice solid getting getting season tickets for our good pal Andy Bryant. Boom, check it out. All right, what else we got? All right, I will endorse Land the man. I will endorse whoever he says that woman is in the picture. Not that she cares about my endorsement. I will never endorse Andre Veras under any circumstances. We run a very tight ship around here. Patrick Stark in the comments, the great Patrick Stark. By the way, did you know that Patrick Stark was an ex-big-time Division I baseball pitcher? Like, that's what always amazes me about people like this. If I was an ex-Division I baseball pitcher, I would absolutely have that, like, on my, like, placard. I would have it on, like, a flag lapel. I would have it on a bunch of different things. And, but that's because he's more modest than I am. But Andre Veras, the Mississippi Gladiator. We will not endorse him, but we will highly recommend him. Give Andre a call at 520-325-3456 and reference the AZ12 podcast for a complimentary initial meeting. The Mississippi Gladiator is sponsoring the trip to the Holiday Bowl. We very much appreciate him. And again, if you're looking to basically get things together and everything, check it out. Andre can help with the college funds, all of that. 401k, you name it, they got it. Check it out. Longview, baby. Okay, now. Oregon and Duke from last year, and I think this is kind of what you were getting at a little bit. I don't know that Arizona beats Oregon last year. Maybe they do. I don't know. But I don't know that Arizona beats Oregon last year without a massive performance from Caleb Love down the stretch. I mean, he made like 14 straight buckets, making threes, doing all that stuff. And then against Duke, he was, and again, I know that Cooper Flagg's better. Somebody told me that I said he's better than Cooper Flagg. I said that game, Caleb was the best player on the court. That is not saying he's a better player than Cooper Flagg. He's clearly not. But Caleb was the one. You needed, against big-time competition, Caleb had to be the man, and a lot of times he was, sometimes he wasn't. This team isn't reliant on that. And it's kind of like we talk about, if Koa doesn't play well, for example, there's other guys that can step up, and that we've seen that. If Jaden, again, whatever, they're not totally reliant on one player, and where you're going in and you're like, man, you got to be able to do this, you got to be able to do that. It's just a different feel all the way around, and that's, again, why I think that this team is really built for March, Brogan.
And not only are they dependent on a player, they're not dependent on a style.
Right.
And so they can beat you 4 or 5 different ways. I mean, they showed tonight they can not make very many shots and still win by 20 plus. I think if they're dependent on one small minor thing, it's late in the game. They're dependent on Bradley and close games.
No doubt. But is that unique to anybody in the country, though, when you think about it?
No,
right.
No. And you've got to you need to have that one guy. It was Caleb last year. You need to have that one guy who can kind of get you a bucket, make a play, whatever. But this team, they're dependent on rebounding and defense and free throws. Yeah. But they're the best in the country at those things. And so, that takes away your dependence on, we need this one guy to go get us 20, because they've already had 5 or 6 players score 20 plus points in a game. this year. I think 5. I think it was what they
Right.
said last game or
Mhm.
whatever. But the style is awesome, which makes them not have to be dependent on any one player.
Right. And like we talked about before, if you want to play slow it down, grind it, this and that, like a UCLA, they can do that. If you want to get up and down and run, they can do that too. It's rare that you see a team that is totally comfortable playing anyway. And, honestly, it's even unique to Tommy at this point because there's been a lot of teams with Tommy where it's like, man, if you get into a half court situation, this is not this could be a problem for Arizona. I mean, now granted, I think I Dennis Walsh. Oh gosh. I think with like the team that lost to Princeton, that team had to be getting up and down and shooting threes because they had nobody that could really create in the half court.
Yeah.
You could make the case with one of the Caleb teams too. He was really the only guy. This team, and it wasn't like and even though a guy like Umar Ballo was really good, you were limited with Umar Ballo because he couldn't make free throws at all. And he couldn't really defend. That's why it's weird. Like, for people that just look at numbers and you're like, well, Umar averaged, 15 and 9. Krivas is better than Umar, and he doesn't put up the numbers that Umar does. Because Krivas does not have the glaring weaknesses that somebody like Umar did.
Well, and when you look at Arizona and they're, one of the best teams in the country in points in the paint.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay. They must have really awesome post players who they're just giving the ball to and, 20 a game on the block. But it's Tommy and how good of a coach he is offensively, and defensively he's catching up. But his offense is so dynamic and everything is constantly moving. And then once you get used to the motion, then they run the little set play to Awaka for an easy layup. Or they say, hey, look, scoring in the half court's hard against good defensive teams. So we're just going to get out and run. And eventually we'll get a bunch of easy buckets, which also count as points in the paint. But they can score in so many different ways without having to be reliant on throwing the ball to Krivas on the block or ISO and Koa or giving the ball to Burries and running a bunch of high screen and rolls and still score a ton of points in the paint. So
Right.
I think it's a tip of the hat to Tommy and how dynamic he is offensively, because this team has only really had 1 or 2 games so far where they've shot the ball really well from 3.
Right.
And they're averaging 80 high 80s points per game. They're tops in the country in points in the paint, and they're smacking teams. It's a weird thing, but it's a nod to Tommy in my mind.
All right, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's almost like Tommy Lloyd's a good coach. It's like AZ Wildcat fan, Krivas fumbles the ball around more than Umar ever did, but he's a million times better defender than Umar is. It's not even close.
I also don't agree at all that Krivas fumbles the ball more than Umar. Umar was like fumbling the ball at the rim 3 or 4 times a game.
And Umar never tried to dunk. And the other thing too with Umar is, and I'm sorry, unless you're Shaquille O'Neal, if you can't make any free throws, that is just a massive problem. And again, I'm not looking to crap on Umar here, but you look at the Clemson game, and everybody talked about, how bad Caleb and Pella played in that game. And yes, you're right. The problem was, though, is that every possession at the end of the game was an empty possession because he just kept, he can't make free throws. So Krivas is just a better basketball player than Umar. And the only reason I was bringing that up is just because if you're just looking strictly at stats, you're like, oh, well, one guy averaged 15 and 10, the other one averages 11 and 10. But if you look at it, and the other thing, too, and I had somebody message me this that was at the game, you don't realize just how insanely big Krivas is until you're there, until you see him, next to other players and what he's able to do. You just can't, I know it's a cliche. You really can't teach what he can do just at that size.
No, and we already talked about this. Krivas is going to be this year's KJ Lewis, where he's going to be awesome and contribute to winning because, 13 rebounds tonight, 3 blocks. Right. Again, defensively, he was awesome. He's going to be the most underappreciated player on the team that actually contributes to winning in a major way because he doesn't dunk the ball 4 or 5 times a game. He's not scoring 20 points a game.
Right.
And so if you're not watching the game close enough, he's not going to look like he's doing a lot. But if you watch it a little closer, and if you ask Tommy, he would tell you this, one of their most important players because he anchors the defense.
Right. Now, Young Wiz says Mount Krivas has a presence. I think that's the best way of putting it. He has got a presence out there. What's also fascinating, too, is seeing that this year about how Tommy, and again, it was different, obviously, last year with Henry, but you look at when you've got Awaka and you've got Krivas in there, Nobody's getting an easy bucket. I mean,
No.
that's
Or a
that,
rebound. Or a rebound.
or a rebound. Those rebounds are all being gobbled up. I mean, it really is kind of an unpenetrable force when you've got both those guys right there with what they're able to do. And that's something that, for whatever reason, Tommy feels a lot more like he wouldn't do it last year much with Henry and Waka, but he clearly feels a lot more comfortable with Waka and Krivas this year. And when they're in there, man, I mean, if you want to play grinded up football or whatever the term is, it is what it is, man. Like, you're gonna have a hard time with that squad.
Well, and in a game like tonight where there was like 1,000 missed shots, usually you see a bunch of rebounds for both teams. But, Arizona had 52 rebounds to 28. So Krivas and Awaka had 28 rebounds and 9 offensive.
Right.
San Diego State's team had 28 total rebounds and 10 offensive rebounds. So they basically matched the entire San Diego State team on the glass. And then Arizona still had the rest of their team getting a bunch of rebounds. But again, Arizona couldn't make a shot in the first half.
Right.
In the first 4 minutes of the second half, but San Diego State was still getting dominated on the glass to where Arizona just controlled the game, kept it close, and then the run came and the game was over.
Right. So, okay. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, we're going to hop around the nation here a little bit, but let's get a couple reads in here. What do we got? Man, too busy winning. If you were to listen to him, Arizona lost by 35 and has only won 3 games all season. I don't understand fans that can't be happy. I mean, I'm assuming he's an Arizona fan. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But, dude, you're ranked number 1 in the country, and all you're doing is saying about how bad Arizona is right now. I mean,
but we didn't look like the number 1 team earlier.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't get it because every other team is flawless. I don't get it. Like, fans like that will always perplex me. But either way, what does not perplex me is Comfort X HVAC, baby. $50 furnace tune-ups. Now, Brogan, you said you have not stuck the front pipe into the furnace lately. This is true.
No, I said I don't appreciate you calling my wife a furnace as well.
Call 520-222. We were talking about that at the watch party today. It was great. 7012 or book online at comfortxhvac.com. Service and maintenance, emergency repairs, installations, door, air qualities, you name it, they got it. Yes. And again, they do a lot of great work. Tony Gimino made them happy. They made Cody James Martin happy as well. They can make a lot of people, and they will save you money in the process. They are very, very good. Now, your good pal Dick Wilson is saying that the front pipe of John Brogan, your good pal Dick Wilson. How would Dick Wilson know if your front pipe is working, Brogan?
If your name is Dick, do we have to assume you know what you're talking about or no?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you guys go back a long way. Yes, exactly. Jerry Reyes says back the furnace, not a reference to anyone's wife. Oh, the great Jerry Reyes. All right, check it out, though. Comfort X HVAC. Very, very good. Man, Dick Wilson. How long have you known Dick Wilson? You've known Dick Wilson a long time,
40
right?
years?
Holy moly. So he might know about your front pipe.
Well, if he does, I got some questions for him.
You're like, Dick, we got to have another discussion here, man. Yes, RJ's Frozen Cactus. Red hot beer and ice cold. Man, I've been so good at this. Red hot sports and ice cold beer. Huge parking lot you can park a jet in. We talked about this with the watch party, being able to back that jet into the parking lot right there. Now, 100 plus craft beers, $2 deals, pizza, wings, tacos, burgers, and more. No bad seats in the house. No bad seats in the house. That means that if you go in there, any seat you're going to sit in is going to be a good seat. Duh. Check it out. RJ's Frozen Cactus. They do very, very good stuff there, and they got a lot of good food. Go in there and start yourself with some of that good food and 4 Peaks. Yummy, yummy into my tummy. Okay. All right. Now, not just a football school. Hey, Brogan, are you guys going to have any more children, or are you done?
No, done. Too old for that.
You're done? Because you were telling me a while back that you weren't sure that you were totally done. You're done now, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Not just a football school, AZ12 podcast. Now, if you're worried about, you don't want to get the wife pregnant, I get it. So maybe you hold off on the shirt. But now that that is out of the way, the shirt is here. Everybody get this shirt. This is going to be a shirt, like I said. This is gonna fertilize a generation right here because of how sexy this shirt is. Not just a football school. AZ12 podcast. Check it out. Boom. Okay. All right, I got to complain about something here for a second, Brogan. I don't want to see it. We're switching to college football just for a minute. I don't want to see any more of these G4 teams in here. It's stupid. Unless
Yeah.
it's somebody that's different. If it's like an old Boise State team, cool. I don't want to see any of these G4 teams. These games are embarrassing.
Here's what I was talking to my brother about is
Andrew or Matthew?
Andrew. There's two other ones too, but
Elder Andrew or younger Andrew?
there's only one Andrew.
Oh, okay.
The point of it, the point was more.
That was good. That was good,
Ben
Nick
was.
Wilson. Yes.
The point I was making to him is like, we're not that far removed. So if this thing moves forward with saying no G5 schools, we're only going to go big boy football in the playoffs.
Right.
We're not that far removed from being on the outside looking in if they decide to consolidate to 30 or 40 big boy football teams.
Yeah,
now,
that's true.
we won 9 games, about to win 10. So my point to this is if we allow one in with a team of 12 or a tournament or playoff of 12, I'm cool. The problem is the ACC went and had a 5-loss team win their conference title, which snuck a second one in. And then it feels worse than it normally is. But I don't have I have more of a problem with the SEC getting all these crap schools in than I do with 1 or 2 G5.
You know what's funny? And again, I get what your point. I don't even really want to argue with it. But it is really, and a couple, I think it was Dan Wolken that said it. Texas A&M, and again, I get it. I get they deserve it to be in. Texas A&M beat one team all season.
Yeah.
Like, they really did. I mean, they beat one team all season.
We didn't know how good they were.
Yeah, and that's the thing is too is then and this whole narrative about, well, if you go through the SEC, no, they didn't play anybody good. They didn't play Alabama. They didn't play Georgia. They didn't play Ole Miss. So if you play Kentucky and Missouri and what other crap schools are there? Mississippi State,
Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I mean, crap like that. Like if you beat those teams, that doesn't do anything for me. So yeah, it's cool you're in the SEC, but that bothers me. I am fine with it, but I also don't think that, like, how do I put this? Like the Ole Miss game today, that game was over in the first 2 minutes. Like that game was crazy. That game was crazy to see just how different both of those teams looked.
Yeah.
Like Arkansas is another crap team, and Texas A&M lost to Texas. So, South Carolina. So, everybody always talks about these, and rightfully so, about how the Big Ten's got a lot of crap in the conference. The SEC's got a lot of crap in that conference, though, too. And you saw that.
Well, and the problem is they start out with like 9 ranked teams in the AP poll preseason, and so they're able to just hang around all year if you lose 2 or 3 games, which is,
right. Yeah. So now, looking ahead then a little bit, who do you like to win it all?
I want Indiana or Texas Tech to win.
Right.
I think the line dropped in the Oregon Texas Tech game. Oregon's -1, so that gives me a little bit of a pause on picking Texas Tech to win.
Right.
I'm gonna, if gun to head, I'm picking Ohio State.
Me too.
Because I don't know that Indiana can beat them again, but I want Indiana or Texas Tech to win.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I will say this though, Indiana, like last year that they felt, and again, I got to be careful here because they're good. They felt a little fluky in that we're going to like destroy all the really good teams, and then when we play like a good team, we're going to lose by 14-17. That's not this Indiana team, though. They can beat, and that's not what you're saying, obviously. They can beat anybody.
Well, their quarterback's awesome, so they're going to be in all those games.
Yeah, Rodriguez is, or not Rodriguez.
Mendoza.
Yeah, Mendoza, same thing. Okay. Oregon -1 means Vegas likes them to roll. Would you agree with what the Mississippi Gladiators, or not the Mississippi Gladiator, what Dennis Walsh is saying?
I feel a little better about Oregon because of history, but we still don't know how good they are because they haven't beat anybody. They lost to Indiana and have no good wins, and then they got to play James Madison today, which doesn't count. So
yes,
we still don't know how good they are. They could smoke Texas Tech or they could lose. Nothing would surprise me.
Right, exactly. I just wish Texas Tech's quarterback was a little better. Because otherwise, I love everything else about their team. I just wish that their quarterback was a little bit better. And, we shall see. Okay, Too Busy Winning is saying that Arizona was 18 of 27 on free throws. Hal J responds back with, we're plus 22 on rebounds. That's going to help out a little bit here.
Well, and we won by 23, and you refuse to acknowledge any defensive stats. You're cherry-picking one side of the game. We won by 23.
Let me ask you this. How many people like that do you come across in your day of life that we've seen a lot of, as Arizona fans, we've dealt with a lot of heartbreak.
Yeah.
How many people do you come across in life, though, that can just never be happy when their team is good? because there are some people like that. This isn't just an aberration.
No, it's. I would say for Arizona fans, it's probably 20%. But I think people in general in life, I think 50% of people are just inherently pessimistic.
Right, but that's a crappy way
And then,
to
and
live
then
life,
when it spills
man.
into sports, then it gets magnified to too busy winning, and it's like 20% of those people are like, until we win a title, we're not going to be very good.
I just imagine just waking up and saying we're number one, but we're really not number one. We suck, kind of.
We don't
and
play
here's
like
why.
a number one team. We don't deserve it.
Yeah, we don't deserve it. And then you know what, that same kind of person, they always think this too, that every other team is flawless, that every other team doesn't have issues. And again, this is what people need to understand too. This college basketball now is different than it was back in the 90s or the 2000s. Sometimes in the 90s and the 2000s, or heck, even into the mid 2000s, you could have teams that were pretty damn flawless. Like I think of those Florida teams that went back to back.
Yeah.
Those teams were pretty much flawless. Like they had shooting, they had guard play, they had dominant bigs, they had coaching. It's different now with the portal, man. It's different with the way that people leave. You're not going to find a flawless team. You just want to find the team that's as close to being flawless as possible, and I think that's why Arizona's one of those three teams.
Yeah, and you still see it in spurts, right? The UConn team from a couple years ago, Villanova,
no doubt,
8 years ago before that. But everybody can reload so fast now with the portal.
Right.
The risk to it is your St. John's, where the pieces just don't fit and you can't win. But everybody can reload quickly in the portal with older guys who have experience and can play. You're not relying on freshmen developing over the course of the year, and then your Duke, where you can win with 2 or 3 freshmen as your best players.
Right.
And so the margin for error, I feel like now is much, much smaller because there's so many teams that have talent now because it's getting consolidated at the top because of NIL.
Right. Now, Andy Bryant puts this really well. Enjoy the good times. We had to live through the 2024 football season.
And like 4 other versions of that football season.
Yeah,
with Sumlin and Makovich and But anyway,
we've seen crap. Yes, we know what it looks like. All right, let's get these super snaps in here. Again, I want to read these back. What do we got here, Cody? If you could throw these ones up here. Talk to me. All right, well, maybe not. All right, well, I'll do. All right, I'm going to do it then. All right, I'm just going to do it live. All right, $4.99 Super Snap. Hunting, Arizona. Enjoy the process. Happy holidays to you guys. Very much appreciate that. This felt like a Sean Miller team, 13-14 defensively. Good to see this team experience. Yes. Now we got our good pal Bridge Tech Communications, our guy Tony, number 2 ranked defense in the country now according to Ken Palm. Do we agree that Waka is playing into the MNBA? Tony, Tony, you're smarter than me and you're much more successful than me. I would love to be wrong on this one. Yes, Miss Shelby K, the lovely Miss Shelby K. Happy birthday, Mike. AZ birthday dub for you. Very much appreciate Shelby. All right, now OC Bodybuilders. Merry Christmas and happy holidays, AZ12 podcast fan. Happy early birthday, Mike. $9.99 OC Bodybuilders. Very much appreciate you. Lil Guillermo, back the 8. Girthquake, waka waka, baby. All right, now we got a couple more. Hunting, Arizona. Enjoy the process. Over under 4 losses in conference play. And then we got Lance, 2911. Bear down, $5. Very much appreciate you, Lance. All right, Brogan, like I said, this wasn't the prettiest game in the world. Arizona still won by 25 points. Let's just be happy that we're going to be going into the holiday season with the number 1 ranked team in the country. That's a good thing.
Well, and I don't know what you expect. Did we expect to win by 50?
Right.
No, we expected to win by, the line was 14.5, 13.5 when it closed or whatever. If you would have said, hey, Arizona's going to win by 15 pretty comfortably in the second half, you'd have been like, great, we'll take it and move on to the next one. They won by 23. And so it's like, what do you expect at this point?
By the way, have you seen some of these Tyler Warden videos? I got to give him a lot of credit. We're going to talk about this. This dude was drinking beer out of shoes. This guy was on the live screen. Good job, Mr. Tyler Warden. Very, very much appreciated.
And did you see Shear's tweet about how Tommy Lloyd said he looked in the stands and saw people drinking beer out of their shoes?
That's one of our co-hosts, baby. Yeah. You get it, my man. Awesome. Get it. Yes. Okay. Guys, everybody go to Little Caesars. Code 1099 bundle. Classic pepperoni or cheese pizza, crazy bread, and 2-liter soda for $10.99 or code LCFREECC. Free crazy combo with any pizza purchase. All right. Now, for the great John Brogan. All right. Back the A, back the bike, back the Brogan, back the furnace. Watch your mouth about the furnace there, Dennis Walsh.
Hey, do we think Cody fell asleep?
I don't think he's awake right now.
Yeah.
No, I'm still here.
Oh,
well,
there he is.
Well, That doesn't mean
Okay.
you weren't asleep earlier, though. Yeah. Okay. All right. Everybody out there, we very much appreciate you guys. We will be back with you on Monday for Benson's finest, John Brogan, for Thatcher's finest, Land the Man with the Master Plan. I am merely Mike Luke. You've been listening to the AZ12 podcast.